Hello everybody and welcome to That's Football, the latest transfer news, and Raheem Sterling to Chelsea is a deal done, widely being reported. It's not official yet, of course, but in the world of transfers, this is what happens. You get terms agreed with the player, you get deal done between the clubs, then you get the official announcement when it suits the club to have them holding up the shirt. Raheem Sterling to Chelsea, £45 million we're hearing, and a deal that, look, I don't want to say I told you so, but we were one of the first to sort of say this was going to happen, and lo and behold, it has. I think it was always a matter of when and not if. And as I say, it's a big week. People are heading off on tour. New signings want to be part of these teams that they're going to play for next season, establish themselves. And look, Raheem Sterling back in London, playing for Chelsea this time. He's been to Liverpool, Man City. He's now going to play for Chelsea. It's not a bad career, is it? And he's still a very firm part of Gareth Southgate's plans. Nowhere, I mean, he's not old either. He's not old. It's an interesting signing, and I don't know whether Pep Guardiola's got this right. I've got to say from the start, I don't know whether he's got this right. I know Raheem Sterling didn't always start for Pep, but I think he's an important player for them. And I mean, it's a big thing for Grealish. You know, Grealish should be getting more game time now. They've got options. I mean, I don't know whether Mahrez and Bernardo Silva are staying. It looks like it could be quite a big rebuild for Pep, who's capable of doing it, and you'd trust him to do it. But on Chelsea's part, I think they're getting a consistent performer. Now, I know some people don't rate Raheem Sterling that much, but one thing I like about Sterling is that he's pretty consistent at the top level. And Chelsea do need that. Whether it's Hudson-Odoi, whether it's Pulisic, whether it's Timo Werner, they do have this problem with consistency off the flanks. And I think Raheem Sterling will give them that. He'll be one of their biggest earners. He'll be one of their star players. As I say, back in London. And I think it's a really good deal for Chelsea. £45 million for someone of Raheem Sterling's quality. I think is what, 27? That's a good deal. It is a good deal. I don't know what I mean. I presume it's contract led. That's why it's a little bit cheaper. But it's still a very good deal for Chelsea. And as I said, we were told about this well over a month ago, and fair play to the people who told us, because they've been absolutely spot on. And Chelsea get Raheem Sterling for £45 million. So what do you think about that, Chelsea fans? What do you think about that, Man City fans? Evolution is always a good thing when you're a big club. It's about, not letting things go stale. I think Sterling was ready to make the move, and I think Pep was ready to move him on. And I think that he's still got a lot to offer. And I think at Chelsea, he's got a very lot to offer. And I think Chelsea are ready to sort of move up that gear. Chelsea really want to be challenging Liverpool and City, and what better player to sign than a player that's been a fundamental part of City's success over recent years and knows what it takes to do that, knows what it takes to win a Premier League. So I think it's an intelligent signing from Chelsea. There's no guarantee it'll work. There's never any guarantee with any transfer. There's no guarantee that City selling Sterling and moving on is going to be a good idea either. But I think that I think also it was time for Sterling to move on as well. I think he wants to play more regularly. There's a lot of rotation with Pep. You don't always know what his best team is. Sterling wasn't necessarily always in his best team, whereas at Chelsea you can expect to start Champions League. They want to challenge for titles. I think there's more game time for Sterling there, and I think it's going to be really interesting to observe, and I think it's a good first signing for Chelsea in this new era with their new owners. So look, I don't know what you think. Smash a like on the video for Raheem Sterling, I suppose, if you think it's a good deal. If you don't, get in the comments. If you do, get in the comments as well. So Raheem Sterling to Chelsea is the big story of this evening, but there are some other stories to discuss. We sort of touched on them yesterday. Remember I said to you yesterday that I'd been told the day before that Arsenal had stepped up their interest in Yuri Tielemans. This is now starting to be discussed a lot more. Interesting. I mean, I'd love Yuri Tielemans to come to Manchester United, but I think that Arsenal will lead this race because they've always been the club in the Premier League that's most interested in Yuri Tielemans. There is other interest, but nobody's really pushing for it. I think Tielemans wants to play in the Champions League, but to that I would say this. Tielemans might want to play in the Champions League and he might get an offer to do that, but you're not playing in the Europa League next year because Leicester aren't in it. Leicester don't have to do a deal with anybody. They could keep you for the final year and let your contract run down. You could do that yourself. So if your option is staying at Leicester for a year and no European football, or going to Arsenal and you're in the Europa League, potentially fighting for the Champions League, that's got to be more appealing than staying at Leicester. And there's not a big queue of teams coming in for Yuri Tielemans. Now, what I was told is the reason there's no big queue for Yuri Tielemans is because it's Leicester, and Leicester don't do good deals. i.e. he's got 1 year left on his contract. You would hope to get him for about 30, 35, Leicester are still asking for things like 40, 45. Well, hello, we've just done a very, very good comparison transfer there. If Raheem Sterling has not got long on his contract left and it's a 45 million deal to Chelsea, you can't be paying 45 million pounds for Youri Tielemans, because suddenly people will compare that and go, hold on a minute, Chelsea are getting Raheem Sterling for 45 million and we're spending 45 million on Youri Tielemans. There's a big difference between Tielemans and Sterling, and Sterling's an attacker as well. So Leicester need to get realistic on this. I don't think 35 million is unreasonable, but I think that's got to be the limit of Leicester, what Leicester want. So I think, as I said yesterday, the challenge for Tielemans getting out of Leicester is whether Leicester are going to be reasonable on the fee. I mean, look, this is a club that got 50 million for Chilwell and 80 million pounds for Harry Maguire. They deserve an award for that. I mean, that's just brilliant negotiation. So we'll have to see what happens with Arsenal there. It's got a bit quiet with Man City. I think Man City will be making some signings. Cucurella is a player that I thought would have signed for them by now. It looked like it was going to happen, taking a little bit longer. And remember what I said yesterday about Spurs. Spurs looking at 2 centre-backs. Longley on loan from Barcelona, but the Pau Torres story is now gathering more pace. I mean, what a summer this would be for Spurs. I wanted to mention Spurs anyway because Spence on loan from Middlesbrough at Forest got promoted last year. Really exciting right back. Spurs definitely leading that race. Not as close as people think it is to being completed. The Telegraph were talking about it today, saying 15 million deal, etc. Might still take a few, well, I say a few more days. I mean, who knows how long it will take. But Spurs are the front runners for that. A fee with Middlesbrough and they'll get that deal done. And then you look at Spurs and you go, as a United fan I go, and probably an Arsenal fan and maybe even a Chelsea fan, you look at that, you go, okay, Bentancur, Kulusevski came in January. They get Champions League football. That's 2 signings that become permanent. They then add Richarlison, Bissouma, Perisic, Spence, Longley and Torres. That's 8 signings in the space of 7 or 8 months. So that's proper backing. I don't know what Spurs fans think, but as a non-Spurs fan, looking at the business that you're doing, you're adding 5 or 6 players to a team that's in the Champions League and deserves to be in the Champions League. This is squad depth. This is backing of your manager. This is what a transfer window should look like. This is what the transfer window I hoped Man United would look like. And I'm sure it's the transfer window Chelsea and Arsenal are hoping for. I don't include Liverpool and Man City because they're 2 of the best teams in the world and they don't need massive major surgery. But Spurs, look, you never know how it's going to work and you can buy too many players. But they look like they're recruiting very intelligently and backing their manager. So let's see if they get Longley and Torres. Gives them a lot of centre-back options for Conte. Anyway, get your comments in below. What do you think? Things are escalating. Sterling to Chelsea. I'm really pleased about this. Not because he's going from Man City to Chelsea, but just because we spoke about this way before a lot of people. And it's actually happened. So let's see what happens with Tielemans as well. Yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you subscribe, smash a like on the video, get your comments in below, and I'll speak to you on the next one.